watching the station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
And thanks for joining us on this Wednesday. For DC News Now at 4, I'm Mark Hall.
And I'm Elisa Gale. Tonight, a DC Doggy Daycare chain is at the center of backlash again after police say an employee kicked and killed a puppy.
And police say it happened Friday at District Dogs in Navy Yard, but customers weren't notified until 5 days later. Our Randy Bass joining us live with new details. Randy, what have you learned today?
Yeah, a new report from DC police given to us today says an employee told officers he was trying to feed a puppy here at the District Dogs location in Navy Yard. When the dog got too excited, he told officers he kicked it to try and calm the dog down. He says he called police and took the dog to a local vet's office. They tried to revive the dog, but it didn't work. Doctors couldn't save the dog. Now, customers and community members are pushing for accountability and answers. Tonight, DC dog owners are trying to make sense of what happened.
I can't imagine. I would be devastated.
Jay Dackman brought his basset hounds, Lewis and Clark, to District Dogs in Navy Yard before. He says it was a less than stellar experience.
I picked him up and he was coughing when I picked him up. It's just after one day. And I had never experienced that before.
Today, other customers told us they probably won't be back at the Navy Yard location after a puppy died at the hands of their employee last week.
It's really scary. You trust those people to take care of your dog, especially if it's a puppy.
This latest death coming just a few months after 10 dogs in their care drowned in a flood at their Northeast DC location in August. This morning, District Dogs sent a message to customers, reading in part, "The actions of the now terminated employee represent a total betrayal of our core values. We have always taken enormous pride in how we care for the dogs entrusted to us. As such, this event is both unimaginable and deeply painful." Yeah, right now it doesn't appear that any charges have been filed in this case against the employee. District Dog says it is cooperating with officers. The Humane Rescue Alliance also told us today its officers are working the case. Again, the story is still developing. We'll bring you new details as we get them. Live in Navy Yard, I'm Randy Bass, DC News Now.
All right, Randy, thank you. Taking a live look at the National Cathedral, where we had another sunny day with mild temperatures, but are we expecting a warm-up?
All right, heading over to meteorologist Damon Matson now. And Damon, we got a chance to walk outside. It was nice and not too cold.
Yeah, the sunshine, I think, made all the difference once again here today as we've nearly repeated the same weather conditions from Monday to start out the week all the way up through this afternoon. And part of those repeating conditions, well, with clear skies overnight, we started on the cold side this morning. Not as many teens popping up on the map. 19, though, out toward Luray and Woodstock, but more just 20s to low 30s. So that was a small improvement, showing that we have just been ever so gradually dialing up those temperatures over the last few days. Right now out there we have some upper 40s in DC, Manassas, and Hagerstown, but we have more 50s popping up. 52 Frederick, 50 in Leesburg, and look out toward the Shenandoah Valley, 56 in Woodstock. So more of those 50s certainly popping up out there today, showing that very slight warming trend has continued, at least all the way up through this afternoon. But as we move forward, we're going to see some more major changes to our weather pattern, if you will. That does not take shape until tomorrow. However, folks, moving forward through the rest of your evening, we stay comfortable under a mostly clear sky through the 5-6 o'clock hour. And then after that sun goes down, we will watch the temperatures fall back into the 30s as we stay relatively clear. But the first change we'll see, clouds will start to increase tonight going into the day on Thursday. When will those clouds start to turn over to some rain showers, and even with potentially some rain on the way? Are we still going to be warming up Thursday and Friday? We'll have a full look at your forecast coming up in just a bit.
All right, Damon, thank you.
And turning now to Virginia, Alexandria police are looking for a man they say sexually assaulted a woman overnight. It happened near Mount Vernon and Commonwealth Avenues.
All right, Daniel Hamburg is joining us live with the latest now. Daniel, what are investigators saying this afternoon?
Well, Annalisa and Mark, investigators were out here today canvassing this area after they say a woman was walking just after midnight when she was attacked and assaulted by a stranger. Neighbors I talked with are a bit shaken up and say this hits too close to home. It comes just 2 weeks after a report of an attempted sexual assault on Mainline Boulevard, less than a mile away. Though detectives say the two cases are unrelated, police tell us stranger sexual assaults are not common, and that's why the search for the attacker is a top priority. That includes increased patrols in the area and more resources for the investigation.
We are stronger and safer together, so we would ask that folks just look out for each other, and please check your security camera in footage should you have that.
There's kids around here, families, you know, it's pretty relatively decent around here, so I'm shocked, I'm surprised.
And police say that woman is being treated at a local hospital. If you have any information about what happened here last night, whether you saw something suspicious or have any kind of Ring doorbell video, you're asked to call police. Annalisa.
All right, Daniel. And at this point, what are some resources that police are recommending for those who maybe need help there?
Well, there is a sexual assault hotline that Alexandria runs. That number is 703-746-6785. They say victims or family members can contact that number if you are in need of any assistance. They say they know that this type of story can be triggering, and they're asking if you need help to please reach out. We're live in Alexandria. Daniel Hamburg, DC News Now.
Daniel, thanks so much. Well, staying in Virginia now, Fairfax County police are still searching for the man who stole an ambulance from Nova Fairfax Monday night. Police say 32-year-old Ricky Lowe was one of 5 people riding in a stolen vehicle when it crashed on I-66 that same day. Now, inside the car, police found illegal guns, including a rifle along with drugs. Lowe was taken to the emergency room for treatment for non-life-threatening injuries. They say he left the ER wearing a hospital gown and with the IV still in his arm while he drove around in that stolen ambulance. The incident now has medical transport drivers like Daniel Lopez worried about their own vehicles.
It's definitely crazy times, and you got to be careful keeping the vans locked when no one's in the vehicle. But sometimes when we have a stretcher transport, we like to keep our helpers, at least one of them in the vehicle, just waiting, being on standby.
We'll tell you more about other recent incidents happening in the Commonwealth, along with the search for Lowe, coming up on DC News Now at 5.
Well, despite the belief among some that violent crime is on the rise across the country, the numbers tell a different story. According to the FBI, homicides fell more than 10% in most of America's largest cities last year, but the decline is far from universal. D.C. experienced more killings in 2023 than in any year since 1997. Carjackings and armed robberies were also up, but there are indications the tide may be turning. Evan Lambert from our Network News Nation got an exclusive look inside of D.C.'s new crime lab.
During the last 2 years or so, with a major uptick in homicides and violent crime in the nation's capital, important parts of the crime lab were not operating. That essential DNA, drug, and gun testing that's used to hold criminals accountable and to exonerate the innocent. But at the end of last year, important parts of the lab were reaccredited. News Nation getting the first look inside since that critical work has restarted. The lab lost its credentials in 2021 after a series of gun testing mistakes stemming from a 2015 murder case and the lab's alleged cover-up. But now it's one of the major tools D.C. is using to fight against the crime surge. We saw scientists plugging away at lab work. The kind of things that are now happening here again are DNA sampling and analysis and drug testing and identification. Prosecutors have blamed the lack of a fully operating lab for declining prosecutions over the last few years. During that same time, homicides were up 35%, the worst level in 2 decades, and violent crime overall was up 39%. On the flip side, there are some early indicators trending positively for the nation's capital. Homicides are down nearly 20% so far this year compared to the same time last year, and all violent crime in that period is down 8%. We pressed the head of DC's crime lab on the accuracy of his team's work.
We, as a laboratory, are able to start processing specimens and start giving out results. Because we were not active during the last 2 years, it will take a little bit of time for us to get full speed ahead.
Do you personally stand by the science and the work that's happening here and guarantee that it's not going to be subject to the same criticism that led to the loss of accreditation in the first place.
I do stand behind the science that is produced here 100% because it's quality science.
And another major capability the lab has once again, it can take DNA samples and put them into a national database that can help solve crimes all over the country.
All right, Evan, thanks so much. Well, new tonight, Metropolitan's Washington Airport Authority says Reagan and Dulles airports have set a new travel record with over 50 million passengers last year. Reagan broke its all-time passenger traffic record with 25.5 million passengers, despite fewer flights because of a runway rehab project. And Dulles reached a new record of 9.3 million passengers, up over 26% from 2022. Airport officials say more infrastructure was a main factor in the record ridership.
The numbers show that with the Silver Line at Dulles, we have increased international passenger load. We also have new airlines coming throughout 2024. It's a great improvement.
They say new flights from Dulles coming later this year includes flights to Bermuda, Mexico City, and Vancouver.
Well, in Maryland, a new art exhibit celebrating Black history and women's history is on display in downtown Wheaton. Soulful Pains Project was created by 5 women artists who live in Montgomery County, and they say that it's an opportunity for them to showcase their diverse artistic voices and perspectives to commemorate Black History Month and Women's History Month. Earlier today, we spoke with the organization's lead artist about her inspiration behind the project.
Mostly, I really wanted to give artists of color, I wanted them to be seen. I wanted Black women to be seen in a positive light and uplifting.
Soulful Pains art installation will be on display at Montgomery County Planning Commission's building through March.